I had a call come in. Somebody, I think they might have a real estate related question. This is Dan. Dan, go ahead with your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call. During Hurricane Michael, I spent a lot of money extra to take out trees that were down. When I sell the property, is that all deductible?
Dan, let me ask you a question. The property that you're talking about, is this, you've obviously owned this property since 2018. Is this your home, or is this like a different piece of property that's not your homestead?
There's another piece of property that I own.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, you own this other piece of property. There was a lot of cleanup that was required after Hurricane Michael. You're looking to sell the property. Obviously, I'm guessing you're going to sell the property for more than you paid for it. And if this is an investment property, normally you would be taxed on the amount of money that you make over and above what you bought it for. So if you bought it for $50,000, you sell it for $100,000. You know, there obviously will be some real estate fees, commissions, closing costs, things like that that you would not normally be taxed on. But that gain in value that you would put in your pocket, that's what you're asking would be taxed. You know, Zach, that's a great question. I mean, when we're talking about what sort of tax obligations, and I'm not a tax attorney, so I need to put that out there right now. I don't give tax advice. That is outside my area of expertise. But obviously, when people make money off of investing real estate, what are some of the things they can set off against those gains in order to lower their overall taxes?
Yeah, you know, the important thing, like you kind of mentioned earlier, was whether it's your primary residence or whether it's an investment property. You know, obviously, if it's your primary residence, you're excluded up to $250,000 for a capital gain, and if you're married, $500,000. But if it's an investment property, all those things would be deductible, like clearing those trees and improving the property and those things of that nature are definitely going to offset that tax liability. So you do want to make sure you're doing that to help yourself. But really the key right there is your primary residence or is an investment property.
Right, right. And so if it is an investment property, typically you would pay capital gains tax on that. That's I believe it's 20% right now, or did they just lower it?
It's 20, depending on your tax bracket. On average, it's going to be 20%.
So it's not taxed like a normal income. So like a W-2 employee, once you make over a certain amount of money, we have what's called a progressive tax season or progressive tax brackets. The more money you make, the higher percentage you pay for those higher earnings. But investments are typically, they are capped at a capital gains, which is typically 20%. The best thing to do when you go to sell the property is you probably want to talk to a tax professional and talk with your accountant as well, because like Zach said, if you purchase this property and you sell it for a profit, you're going to want to check in. What are the different things I did to improve the property? You talked about having to clear out the land. If you put power, if you put water, any sort of infrastructure you put into it, you can offset that against the amount of money that you would end up making, and that would otherwise lower the amount of money that you had to pay taxes on. So great question, Dan. Appreciate that call. Again, we're taking your calls live tonight. We're talking about real estate transactions, first-time home buying. If you have a question like that, give us a call. Zach Sanchez with Think Real Estate is here to answer those. 850-392-1544. Zach, first-time home buyers. What's something a first-time home buyer needs to know?
You know, one is the first thing is talking to your bank and really understanding what you can afford and what goes into those things and understanding the process. Having a great real estate agent who can kind of dissect it for you and walk you through it because you've never been through it before. But I'd tell you right now is, you know, really get educated on the market and what's going on and when's the right time to buy for you. You know, looking at should you rent, should you buy, what your payment's going to look like with interest rates in this market, and then knowing kind of what all the programs are out there, FHA versus conventional, because those really can set, you know, your cost and really look at those things. So I think lending's probably the biggest factor that I would definitely say you need to be looking into and educating yourself, because there are a lot of great programs out there to help you buy your first home.